It is 6:30. It's time to get this council meeting started. So first off, let's do a roll call and make sure all council members are present. Jason Beebe.
Present.
Janet Hutchison.
Present.
Patricia Youngman.
Here.
Gail Merritt. I think she's still at the graduation. Jeff Papke.
Here.
Teresa Rumble. Teresa, are you with us?
I can see her.
I can see you, but I think you're on mute.
Yes, I'm on mute. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Let's please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Forrester, are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mayor, we have several tonight. First is item number 4, the virtual swearing in of Sergeant Rich Todd, and that was with Chief Dale Cummins. We're going to postpone that to a later date.
Okay.
He has been sworn in. He is on duty. Also, item number 6, as we discussed in the workshop previously today, the Pacific Power franchise is going to be presented to council at the second meeting in June in a couple of weeks. And then lastly, item 10, ordinance number 1261, adopting changes to Prineville Code section 50.22 and adding 50.24 in its first presentation. That's specific to the Republic Waste franchise agreement update that we're working on. We did meet with them today. Jared and I did meet with their general manager, and we have an agreement in concept. They wanted to take an extra 2 weeks to have their legal counsel review that. We expect to have that back on the 23rd as well.
Okay, so that will be postponed to the 23rd.
Correct.
All right. With that, the consent agenda was circulated with the meeting brief from May 26th, the Pine Theater liquor license and the Story Sushi liquor license. Are there any questions or concerns about any of the items on the consent agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as circulated?
This is Patricia, and I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda as circulated.
Thank you, Patricia. Is there a second on that?
This is Janet. I'll second.
Okay, again, any questions, concerns, anxieties about the consent agenda? Okay, let's go for a roll call vote. Jason Beebe?
Aye.
Janet Hutchison?
Aye.
Patricia Youngman?
Aye.
Gail Merritt, are you with us yet? Not yet. Jeff Papke?
Aye.
Teresa Rumble?
So is there a way for me to abstain from the minutes as I wasn't present, but vote aye for the liquor licenses and attachments?
You'd have to have a different motion on the table in order for that to occur. If you abstained and we had a vote for Mayor Uffelman, then we would carry the motion.
Okay, so I'll just abstain.
Okay, and the mayor votes aye, so motion passes. All right, thank you. Let's move on. Under visitors, appearances, and requests, Crook County Health Department, Muriel DeLavergne-Brown.
Hello, thank you for... Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Muriel.
Okay, perfect.
Do you have a PowerPoint, Muriel?
No.
Did you have a... Oh, I thought...
Oh, no, I didn't have a PowerPoint.
Oh, I thought you had
Yeah, I sent you a couple documents that you can actually send out to the group. I didn't have a PowerPoint for today. What I sent you was... Oh, go ahead.
No, that's fine. I'll send that out to the council. Yeah.
Okay. Basically, I sent 3 different documents, but they're not so much for the PowerPoint as much as just information for the council. So one is our, and you've probably seen it, the Phase 2 plan letter with the information on it that I wrote and we submitted and we were approved, and so opening was on the 6th. The second document I sent, I'm not sure which order I sent those in, but the second document I sent was actually, I had Brian and a couple people had asked me, or Commissioner Barney had asked me about like an easy way to explain contact tracing. And I know I've talked to this group about that before, but what we did is we actually did a graphic that's just a really simple graphic that's on our website that I sent you the graphic so you can kind of see, and you can also post that if you want to on your website. And then the third document, which just came out this week, and it's called a reopening guidance tool. And it's really helpful because I know when I sent this to Judge Crawford, he was like, that makes it really simple. So what it does is it basically goes through each of the types of businesses or personal services or restaurants, and it goes down and it talks about the executive order phases and what would open, and then it talks about gathering size, and it's really specific about here's the things that really are open, so people can look at that and see what it is. So it's a pretty simple tool that you also can post just if people have questions about that. I think for opening, what we tried to do is basically there's, and I've talked about this before, but there's 6 metrics that the state measures us on. So it has to do with emergency room visits. It has to do with any hospitalizations, has to do with number of cases within the past 7 days. Do you have adequate isolation facilities, minimum testing, and then sufficient healthcare capacity. So we were still, we met 6 out of 6. There were, as you noticed, Deschutes County and Jefferson County had to have a discussion with the governor, and then they went ahead and also opened. But they just wanted to make sure that they had those things in place and that they could monitor that. So that was pretty much what it was around the opening. So anyway, we got word last Wednesday. The letter came from the governor, and we were able to let people know. So the first thing we did, and I would say it's a really good source for all of you, is we post everything on our website. So if you go to the website itself for Kirk County Health Department, and then up on the top, it talks about reopening on the left-hand side. If you click on that, it's got every kind of business, anything that can be open. And we also, the state has been putting out some kind of answering questions, so FAQs. So we included those under each of those. So you can also see, because a lot of questions come in. I got one today from, well, we got several today, but I got one and a long list of questions that I'm going to respond to tomorrow from an organization in town. So I think those are the kind of things we continue to get. One thing that does happen is, even though OSHA is really responsible for a lot of the business things, we do get the complaints a lot to our email. So we try to reach out and educate people when we get a complaint. Obviously, if it's a restaurant, we follow up. If it's a pool, we follow up, or if it is motel. So basically, restaurants, food, pool, and lodging, we kind of handle that from the health department side, and we educate them. But it would still be OSHA if there were a lot of complaints went in and OSHA visited them. I think if they are not wearing face covering, it's a fine of $450. So that would not come from the health department. That actually would come from OSHA. So it's a little confusing that way, but that's sort of the way that works. So as far as Crook County, I know on all the reports that are coming out, it says we still are maintaining at 6 cases. Some of the data in what we call the Orpheus system, it hasn't dropped down that yet. We actually have 1 more case, and we have 1 presumptive. So presumptive could be somebody that lives in the household. They haven't necessarily had the test, but they have all the symptoms or a lot of the symptoms. So we do have a couple more that are going to show up in the next couple days. It doesn't affect anything as far as opening or anything like that. I did feel really sorry for my friends in Lincoln County, and everybody probably knows they had 160 some cases in 2 days based on Pacific seafood. So that can overwhelm a system really fast. So I think those are the kind of things we really don't want to see happen. So a couple other things that we're doing is St. Charles has stepped up, and their health educators got trained as contact tracers. So we have 6 health educators from St. Charles in their health promotion team that will be helping us if we need help. Probably it's for all 3 counties, so they'll be assisting us as we need to. The other thing the state started to do, and you probably noticed, if there are 5 or more cases in a workplace, the state will announce the workplace. So that's another thing that has happened. We obviously have not had that happen, but if 5 cases that they're all connected in the workplace themselves, not necessarily families or anything like that, just 5 workers. So those are some of the new things. As of today, Oregon actually has 4,988 cases, of which 2,332 are recovered. My guess would be there's more than that recovered. It's kind of a process. What happens is you have to wait the number of days, and then like my staff member has to go back in and click a little box saying the person is finished their 14 days, they're okay, they're out of isolation. And that's how that process works. And then we've had 169 deaths in the state of Oregon. So our testing continues to increase. Our testing right now in Cook County is 31.1 per 10,000. We're in the region, they want us to maintain 30. We keep working. There's a new testing group that is meeting with all the medical providers, or a lot of the medical providers, and St. Charles. I have my staff person on that. They just had their first meeting last Friday. So a lot of things are improving in that realm. There are still shortages with some of the test cartridges. So that still is an issue around some of the rapid testing. But otherwise, we're moving forward. We continue to give people guidance. And that's kind of where we're at in Kirk County. So questions for me?
Any council members have questions?
This is Janet. Muriel, this is Janet. So once somebody takes the test, how long does it actually take for them to get the results?
So it takes, if they use the rapid test, it's probably within 45 minutes. They're not using those for everyone because, it kind of depends on where that person's at and what the need is. So there can be the rapid test, but they don't have as many of those cartridges. So otherwise, it's about 3 days. And typically, if somebody's tested, if they're symptomatic and they're just not feeling great, their doctor orders it. It takes about 3 days for those test results to come back.
And are the rapid tests as accurate as what the other test is?
The one the Abbott that everybody was using first is not. There's been some questions about that test. There is another test that St. Charles is starting to use, but I think part of the issue still is the cartridges were back ordered. And I think Mosaic ordered cartridges also, and they were back ordered. So that's there still is an issue with the supply chain around testing, but if your physician orders a test, if you go in and see your regular physician and they order a test, St. Charles will do that test. So, and they can do it in their lab. So some of those things have changed in that it's improved the process so people in Cook County can get tested in Cook County. And that the other thing we're waiting on is probably, I think I told you, probably 3 weeks ago, we had a conference call with Walmart, and they were talking about how they were going to do this pop-up testing, and it would happen in the Redmond Superstore, and they would be able to come over here and do some kind of drive-through type testing. The last time I checked on that was about a week ago, and the state was still working on the contract. So I'm like, okay, come on. So the more testing is starting to happen. I think eventually we'd love to see testing in other locations. The other thing that is happening in Central Oregon is Central Oregon was chosen as a location to do some testing in patients or clients or individuals in long-term care. And so they're picking a cohort of long-term care facilities and doing some testing. I just saw that today. I'm not sure if any of those are in Crook County or if they're just in Deschutes County. So, and then the other piece is that, I think we'll just see an increase in testing. The other thing that St. Charles is doing is everyone who is going, and actually Todd from St. Charles said this in a meeting the other day, that everyone that's going in for any kind of surgery or procedure at St. Charles where they may have to intubate them or something like that, they're actually testing each person. So that's one thing that's also happening. So you will see the numbers increase based on that too.
Yeah, and it's not just St. Charles. Ben Surgery Center.
Oh, are they doing it too?
She just had cataract surgeries, one last week and one this week. And prior to having that procedure done, she had to go to BMC, or which is now Summit, and have the COVID test 3 days ahead of time.
Oh, okay.
Before they would.
Yeah, I knew St. Charles was doing it. I hadn't talked to anybody from Summit. So, but you're probably right. If it's a surgery center, I would guess any of those kind of procedures, they'll do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I was wondering if they were doing it here in town, because we had to go all the way over to Bend for the COVID testing.
The way Todd talked, I thought they were doing it here in town for any procedures, but it kind of depends. I mean, I think probably the reason you had to do it over there is it depends on who's ordering the test, because if it's Summit that's doing it, everybody uses different labs. So St. Charles uses, for the labs they send out, they use University of Washington. And so that probably is not who Summit is using. They're probably using Quest or somebody else. So that probably would be why you would have to go to that.
Okay, thank you.
You'd have to go to their lab.
Okay.
I know of one person personally that had surgery last week, and they had their testing done in Prineville. So
yeah,
that can be done.
I think
there.
if it's through St. Charles, my guess would be the test will be here. But like I said, I think Summit uses a different lab system, and that sort of plays a role in it.
This surgery was done at the surgery center. Muriel, I had a question for you. One of the reasons for the isolation was to minimize the impact on the hospital. Can you tell us what the status of the hospital visits, the impact of COVID on the local hospitals has been for the last couple of weeks?
So right now we're doing pretty well. I think when Todd was from St. Charles in Prineville, when he was talking, I can't remember which meeting I was on. There's so many meetings. Anyway, it was this week. I know it was EDCO on Monday. And he said that in the St. Charles system right now, there's, I think there are 4 patients in the hospital, but that is well within what St. Charles is able to handle. So we're actually doing pretty well. The positive is we have still not had, thank you, we have not had anything in a long-term care facility, and we have not had any deaths in Central Oregon. So that's a plus.
Thank you. Any other questions for Muriel?
Yeah, this is Jeff. A question for you, Muriel, and this is something that I know that happened, and I'm just curious as to kind of how this falls under everybody's purview. I know we had a high school in Redmond, Ridgeview, who decided to have a prom at a private residence here in Crook County.
Yeah.
I can't believe the high school did it, but I'm not their decision makers. They did it.
I know.
And I guess does any of that, as far as private gatherings, does that fall under anybody's purview? Is that just more of a let's hope they follow the guidance and make good decisions? Or
I have to tell you that's incredibly frustrating to me. And you know, the rumor was we're going to do it in Crook County because nothing will happen, was what I was told by a very reliable source in Deschutes County. And I was not very happy. But we did reach out to those individuals that were putting that on, and we did not get a response, which does not surprise me. But we really, from a public health standpoint, and I think from the beginning of this whole thing, you know, our role is really around education. Obviously, that, and I think that's where law enforcement in the state really came down to, is this is about education. I mean, I think I had somebody once make a comment that if people tried to have a COVID party, they would probably shut it down, but because that was happening back east, where let's everybody get together and see what happens. Those kind of things bother me, but I mean, I have, at a certain point, I had to say, I don't have, I wish I had more control over this, but I don't. I have a close friend who, she's a public health director in Montana. And in Montana, it's really interesting because the public health directors actually have more control in the communities, and they can actually make things stricter than the governor. And so they, in their community, it's a very tourist type of community. And I don't think I mentioned this to you guys before, but she actually told me that they had a protest and it was against her. So I'm like, well, that's a first for a public health director. It was first for her. But anyway, so yeah, we knew about that, and I did pass that information on, and we just did the best we could do. Yeah. So I think it's a little bit easier. It's harder with private functions. It's a little bit easier when, you know, like if it's at fairgrounds or if it's someplace, because those agencies and organizations are looking at what they can do and how they can do it right. So.
Quick follow-up on that.
Muriel.
I know we have a couple of venues in Crook County that host events like weddings and reunions, et cetera, that are privately owned.
Right.
Do we, I guess, where do they fall under your purview in the?
I don't know if they fall so much under mine as they fall under law enforcement. I mean, it does talk about in here that if there's venues that, like venues, if there's enough space, can be up to 250 people. So, you know, I don't know if, I mean, that probably, as long as they're doing, you know, physical distancing and doing what they're supposed to do, I think where we would fall into it is if we have people catering or something, that's, you know, and there's food involved, that's a little bit different. But I, you know, you kind of hope that people will try to do the right thing so people don't get sick. So it's not like the virus has gone away. So we still have to be cognizant of that.
Other comments or questions? Muriel, thank you very much. Appreciate your comments and your being with us this evening.
Absolutely.
Mr. Wilson, do we have anyone on?
Thank you, Muriel.
Thank you, Muriel.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye now. James Wilson, do we have anyone online who would like to speak to the council this evening?
Looks like there's one person on the line. I'll go ahead and unmute it and.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Do you have any comments for the city council this evening? If so, please identify yourself and your address. Hearing nothing, then let's move on to past visitors' appearances and requests. Go on to council business. We have postponed the power franchise issue. Number 7, temporary expansion of utility bill assistance related to COVID-19. Lori Hooper.
Good evening, Lori Hooper, City of Prineville Accounting Manager for the record. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Included in your council packet is a staff report regarding a temporary expansion of the city's utility bill assistance program, and hopefully you've all had a chance to read it. The reason staff is asking for this expansion of assistance is because as the city reopens from COVID-19 closures, delinquent water and sewer balances present a potential problem for customers and the city. We're looking to mitigate the problem through offering some extra assistance to our customers. The program expansion includes temporarily offering payment plans and a relief credit of $150 once the payment plan has been satisfied. I would be happy to read through the highlights of the staff report, or for the sake of time, just answer any questions that you may have, whichever you prefer.
I'm good with questions unless someone else needs some additional information. Any council member questions?
Hey, Lori, this is Janet. Could you go through what that looks like? I mean, I read, and I'm not sure if I got it right, but I read that it's for 4 months if they're behind, if they're delinquent, for 4 months, and then what the additional payment would be for people to bring them up to date. And is that correct?
So it's not necessarily they have to be 4 months. What we're trying to do is capture the people that this has greatly affected in the last 4 months. By the time we actually roll this program out, it'll be roughly 4 months that will have been closed and not shutting off water. And so we're trying to make sure that we're offering a payment plan to people who are between 1 to 4 months behind, and once they start getting into the payment plan and they reach $150, we would give them a credit to bring them to zero. Does that make more sense?
Yes, in some respect. So you're going to look at it, and this is June, so are you going to look at it in July, and you're going to start it in July if the council approves it tonight?
So the plan would be we would start noticing our past due customers at the end of June. We would do another notice at the end of July, and we would likely also start, depending on how many customers we have that are falling in this delinquent status, we could possibly start calling customers as well to start getting them on a payment plan.
Okay, so if a person is like $200 in the rears, then we would offer them, if the council approves this tonight, a $150 credit if they do a payment plan?
We would want to do a payment plan with them, yes. And so they would have to, so let's say they're $200 in the rears, which means that their actual balance is going to be closer to $300 because they also have the current bill on top of that. So we're going to spread that $200 over a 4 to 6 month period and then give a $150 credit at the end. But we're going to talk to these customers and find out what works out best for them.
So that's how you're going to determine if they get a 4 month payment plan or a 6 month payment plan?
Yeah, through conversations with the customers, yes.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, this is Patricia. I have a question. How many customers now are delinquent?
So today would have been a shut-off day, and we would have shut off 113 people.
Thank you.
And that's our average is roughly 55.
Lori, why don't you just go through the highlights of the program as you're putting this forward? I mean, we have it, but I know there are people online that watching the council meeting and the presentations that don't have the material to review. So I think it would be helpful for you just to outline.
Just read the whole thing. I thought I'd do. Just read it all.
Okay. Yeah. And just read it. Read through it if you would, please.
Certainly. You want me to read the whole staff report?
Yes.
You can highlight.
You can.
Okay. In March 2020, pursuant to Resolution 1430, the City of Prineville temporarily suspended water shutoffs for non-payment due to COVID-19 pandemic. This action allowed several months of past due bills to accumulate for a portion of the city's utility customers. As Oregon reopens and the city prepares to resume standard operations, these customers may find it more difficult to get caught up on their past due balances. Staff believes it's unlikely that they'll be able to bring their account immediately out of a shutoff status, especially if they're experiencing a financial hardship. City ordinance provide that delinquent water and sewer bills can be applied as a lien on the property and fall to the property owner if a tenant does not pay their bill. The city recognizes that renters who have become several months behind in their utility payments may present a financial burden to the landlord if they move out before getting caught up on their water sewer bills. City staff is looking to be proactive in getting these past due balance resolved without shutting off service before customers fall too far behind in their monthly bill. Historically, the city turns off water once a customer is behind in payments by 1 month. The city has not traditionally offered payment plans or a hardship relief credit for utility accounts. However, staff feels that the current situation warrants utilizing these tools. As of May 12, 2020, the city had roughly 90 customers who would have been in danger of having their services shut off due to non-payment. This is trending higher than average when compared to the May 19, which there were only 60 customers scheduled for shut-off. Staff expects approximately 120 customers to be delinquent and meet policy for having their services shut off due to non-payment once the city resumes standard operations. In an effort to mitigate the number of customers facing utility shutoff and to recognize the financial hardship that COVID-19 pandemic has caused, staff plans to work with customers to resolve past due balances utilizing a payment plan and offering a one-time relief credit. The relief credit will serve as an incentive once the payment plan is complete and the past due balance is paid in full. Staff intends to recover as much past due revenue as possible while minimizing water service disruptions for customers to the greatest extent possible. The proposed program details were included in Exhibit A, which I can also go through those here in just a second. The fiscal impact will be that the water and sewer revenue will be reduced by potentially $15,000 in fiscal year 2021, provided all qualifying customers utilize the assistance plan to bring their balance current. Additional hard costs associated with the customer noticing are estimated at an additional $1,500 expense. It is anticipated that this cost and revenue shortfall will be covered with contingency and fund balance, and the water and sewer fund may require a budget adjustment for the extra expenditure. Staff recommends that unless council directs otherwise, staff intends to work with the past due customers in an effort to avoid utility shutoffs through the 4 to 6 month payment plan and a one-time utility relief credit for customers who are experiencing financial hardship due to the COVID-19 pandemic. What we would plan on actually sending out to customers lays out some of the program details, and these program details include: it requires a payment plan agreement to get the account brought to current. After entering the payment plan, the customer shall pay any new monthly water sewer bills in full and on time, in addition to making the agreed upon monthly payments. Customer participating in the payment plan agreement will be eligible for a $150 credit once the past due amount has been reached, and provided that customers are not in default of the agreement. Customers shall be limited to one credit. Funding for the $150 relief credit is limited and will be awarded on a first-come, first-served basis. Payment plan agreement must be entered into by August 10th to be eligible for the $150 relief credit. The eligibility requirements are that they must be a water and sewer customer of the City of Prineville. Water-only or sewer-only accounts will not be eligible for this program. Customer accounts must be active and have a delinquent balance that is no more than 4 months outstanding. Do you have any other questions?
I guess I just have a quick question. Why is the program not eligible to people who just have water or sewer only?
So a $150 credit for a water-only account is roughly 6 months worth of their water bill.
So is there a way to create something to where it's maybe, if it's a water only or a sewer only account, that it's $25 or something like that to encourage them to get on that payment plan?
That's certainly something we could look into. On average, 4 months worth of water bills is about $80.
Mm-hmm. So how many, do you know how many would be shut off today that are just water, just sewer? What is the percentage of that?
So we don't shut off water for sewer accounts. And the water-only accounts are very few and far between. I didn't look at that specifically, but I do look at the shut-off list every time we have it. Mm-hmm. And these balances are normally large balances, not $40. We're not shutting water off for small balances.
Okay. I'm just wondering if that's something that maybe we should look at in the in the off situation where somebody has been laid off and they're water only because they have a septic system or something like that. If to encourage them to maybe come in and actually start that conversation instead of just letting it ride.
Yeah, that's most definitely something we could look into.
Okay. Other questions?
I just have a comment. I'd like to say that Lori did an awesome job reviewing this process, and I'm extremely proud of her contribution, and I agree with everything that she has contributed. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
I think this is quite a positive program to help out those people that who have been adversely affected by the COVID-19 layoffs. So it's a way for the city to move forward and help those folks out themselves moving forward. So, are there any other questions or comments, Mr. Forrester? Did you have any comments on it?
I don't. I agree with everything you said there, Mayor. I think this is an unfortunate situation, and at some point we have to address it. I'd rather address it now and get this process started to help people find their way through this to the other side, and this is certainly something we don't want to prolong very much longer. So we'd appreciate the council giving us some direction on this effort that, to Liz's point, Lori has really taken the ball and run with.
Yeah, I think, Lori, you've done a very commendable job with this project, and I like the concept of creating some incentives for people to be able to move forward in addressing their issues. Other council questions or concerns on this process moving forward? Do we need to take any action?
Shouldn't.
No, there's no vote on the table. It's merely to get direction from council. Really, if there was any objections or concerns, the staff is intending to move forward. I will be working on the actual agreement for the customers over the next couple of weeks, working with Ms. Hooper pretty closely, as well as other city staff.
Okay.
And Teresa, we'll look into the numbers on water and sewer only and how they're included in the total amount of accounts that are delinquent. And if that's a significant number, we probably will try to work on something that makes sense to mitigate that situation.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Okay. Last option for questions or comments on that? Thank you. Let's move forward. City Manager's report. Mr. Forrester.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a fairly short report this evening. First off, I want to advise the council and members of the community that the city staff is reviewing our internal operational policies as a result of the governor's executive decision through the help of Muriel at Crook County Health to move into the Phase 2 reopening. And that includes what we want to do with City Hall in terms of opening it up to utility customers, other meeting opportunities. Down the road a little further, once we get guidance, if we take the next step in how we would conduct council meetings and so forth. So we will be having those discussions. It will start tomorrow at our Wednesday staff meeting on what changes we might consider making, and we'll advise the council of the result of those decisions. Also on May 27th, I participated in a City Club Managers Forum, included the city managers in Central Oregon and the county administrators in Central Oregon regarding our response to the COVID-19 pandemic. For those of you who are interested, you can go on the Bend City Club's website and pull up that YouTube. It's pretty interesting, really a positive experience on some of the collaboration that went on between the different communities. I know Mayor Elfelman, you participated in a lot of those discussions, and some of the work that was done to help businesses. Obviously, Prineville did a bang-up job with what we did in participating with the county and the Downtown Association, getting some bridge money to small businesses. So it's a pretty neat discussion with all the different players from around the Central Oregon community. Also this week, I've continued to serve as a county budget committee member, and I had my first session. Our first 4-hour session was today. We'll have one tomorrow and again on Thursday. The big news from the county budget committee is Andy Parks, who has done an enormous amount of work here at the city and helped Liz and helped myself develop a lot of the long-term models that we rely on, and certainly Liz has spent a lot of hours doing that. Andy's an extreme talent, and we've kind of suggested to the county to take advantage of his skill set, and they've done so. And so I was very pleased today to see the work the county had done on their budget. It's a very good document, and they are mirroring some of the processes and policies that Liz and our team here at the city has developed for our award-winning budget documents. So I think it's really neat that the county and the city are actually coming into alignment on how they approach their financial documents. And finally, on the council side of things, I want to remind the city council and the rest of us tonight that we do have some changes in elections for some open positions on the city council. The deadline for filing is August 25th for the November election. So I just wanted to make sure that that was on your radar for those of you who would like to run again, and for those of you who aren't going to run again, who maybe recruit some potential candidates to participate as city council members. So that's something I just wanted to make sure to remind all of you about. And then finally, Matt Wiederholt is with us tonight, railroad manager, and he has an update he'd like to share with you at this time. Matt?
Yep. Can you hear me, Steve?
Sure can, Matt. Loud and clear.
Okay. Matt Wiederholt from the City of Prineville Railway. I wanted to share a little update. As you all know, Steve reported last Wednesday we had a single car derailment. So I wanted to kind of share what happened and where we're at with that. So Wednesday morning, the crew was shoveling about 14 cars from Prineville, the freight depot downtown. And so what that means is they were pushing them backwards. And when they got to about Pioneer Cutstock, they hit a faulty switch, and we derailed one car. It happens. It doesn't happen very often on the City of Prineville Railway, but it does happen. What made this one a little worse than normal was just the distance that the car traveled from the track. So we had to get about an 80-ton crane in and reset the car on the track. Nobody was hurt. After reviewing everything, the crew was doing exactly what they were supposed to be doing. They were operating as they should be and safely, well under the speed limit set for that section of track, which is 10. So it was just simply a track malfunction. It only took about an hour to set the car on, so that's a good thing. It did do some significant damage to 2 private crossings and 2 tracks in that area. So we have a track repair contractor on site today, and he's working on getting all that up and going. I'm trying hard to get it up and going quickly because that's the entrance to the Brightwood facility, and they were very, very good to work with and opened up their yard for us. So I'm trying to minimize any kind of transportation related hiccups for them. So we're trying to get it all back and going, hopefully by Friday. Other than that, I'm just really grateful how we work together at the city, because, it was early Wednesday morning, the first call I make to Scott Smith, and of course Public Works is there in 5 or 10 minutes and helping us out, and 6 of them. And I think the second call was the city manager, so it shows you how he ranks. Scott and the Public Works are first, I guess, but they helped us out and got us going, and with very little incident. So as the state and federal requirements and thresholds as far as derailments go, it's fairly small. So a reportable derailment is if you have $10,000 in rolling stock damage, or $80,000 on our track. And that's important because when you have reportable derailments, that hits your insurance pretty hard, and we're way under those thresholds. We had zero rolling stock, and we're going to probably be under $40,000 to get all of the track up and going. So that's a positive if there is one in a situation like this. So again, I'd really appreciate all the help from the Public Works and everybody coming together and helping us out. So if there's any questions, I'd answer them, but not a good situation, but it went about as smooth as it could go for what it was. So
Matt,
any questions?
Thank you for taking care of that so promptly and so effectively. And I understand that was an empty car, so there was no damage to any merchandise or any contents. So
exactly right. Yep.
Questions or concerns from council? Well, Matt, thank you for your work and the crew, and especially for the Public Works stepping in to help you out, bail you out as quickly and promptly as they did. So thanks to Mr. Smith and his crew also. Mr. Forrester, anything else to add?
That concludes my report, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Did you cover that? No, never mind. Okay, let's move on then to, yes.
This is Janet. Can you talk a little bit more about the tank that was found in the city parking lot, and as you were doing the paving, and if you have to wait for those test results to make sure the soil isn't contaminated before you can pave over that?
So, Janet, yes, I think Eric can respond to that. I think it's pretty solid news. So, Eric, can you answer that question, please?
Yeah, so when Scott and his crew were removing the asphalt and prepping the base for the reconstruction of that city parking lot, they hit the fuel riser for that tank, and he called me and he said, I can hide this really, really quick if you want to. I chose not to do that, so that was probably the right thing to do. But what that was a 9,000-gallon tank. It had about 4,000 gallons of a very thick bunker oil. This was the heating oil for the old Ocho Inn that was located where the Cinnabar is, or Cross Street, or whatever it is now. There's a local person, Amber Hudspeth. Amber Courtney went to school probably with Jason Beebe, right about his age. She's a scientist. She has an environmental company in Bend. She's always wonderful to work with. We called her up. She was over immediately. She took samples of the material, and we started working on ways to dispose of it. We were able to contract with SMAF, so we kept that work local. And at the end of the day, there was very little contamination. There was just a little contamination from where they used to fill the tank, where they would overflow it or spill it. So I believe we took maybe 6 or 7 dump trucks full of contaminated soil to our local landfill and then all of the product, SMAF took it up to Arlington for us to dispose of it. So it was a bad issue, but we got that one behind us. We did everything per the code, and it was just wonderful. Really appreciate Amber and her help, and Scott Perfili and his crew at SMAF.
Thanks for your decision not to hide it. So thanks for everything. So do you don't have to wait now to finish the paving?
Nope, we've already backfilled, and we removed the contaminated soil that we knew was contaminated, and we took additional samples. We just recently got those back that were good to really just button up that project. So we have a few other little sinkholes in there, so we think we might have found a few old septic tanks and stuff, nothing significant. We can deal with those easily. But yeah, that we appreciate the patience of the business owners there. Ochco Brewery has been great. That we're gonna really put the hammer down and try to get that project behind us as quickly as possible now that we got the go ahead.
Thanks for the info.
Yeah. And just for the record, that was a joke. He was not considering hiding it.
Yeah, not too much. Is the audio dead? I can't hear anything. Teresa, Jason, can you guys hear?
Okay.
Oh, there you are.
Start that over.
Go ahead.
I was out at the wetlands today because the Rotary Club has placed benches around the wetlands trail, so about every 300 feet for those people walking that need to take a break periodically, especially for the older population that don't walk long distances at one time. Anyhow, it was quite a project that the Rotary put together to get the benches out there to improve the walking trail conditions. So it was good to see that done, and I believe there will hopefully be an article in the paper on that. But if you're not out at the wetlands, or if you have a chance, go out to the wetlands and take a look. It's nice to see that having been done. Okay, if there are no other committee reports, we'll move on to ordinance number 1260, adding chapter 156 to COP, that's the City of Prineville Code Housing Receivership. For the second presentation, Mr. Reed.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we had the first presentation of this ordinance 2 weeks ago. Provided a presentation at that time. Nothing has changed. It's open for any questions. If there are none, this would be the time to pass the ordinance for its second reading. It would go into effect 30 days from now.
Are there any questions or concerns? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve ordinance number 126 for its second presentation?
This is Councilor Beebe. I will make a motion to approve ordinance number 1260 for its second presentation.
Thank you, Jason. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And that's Teresa?
Yep.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Thank you for the second. Again, any questions, concerns, anxieties? Hearing none, we'll go through a roll call vote. Mr. Beebe?
Aye.
Janet Hutchison?
Aye.
Patricia Youngman?
Aye.
Gail Merritt, are you with us yet? Probably not. Okay, we'll skip Gail. Mr. Papke?
Aye.
Teresa Rumble?
Aye.
And the mayor votes aye as well, so we are unanimous in the vote. Motion passes. And next we have ordinance number 1261, and we are postponing that until June 23. So there are no resolutions. Is there anyone, Mr. Wilson, that would like to speak to the council online?
There is no one else on the line at this time.
Okay, thank you. Last chance for the council.
Oh, can I go real quick?
Certainly.
Jared, do I need to make a public on the record name change?
We had mentioned it to the mayor earlier. He had recognized you as Teresa Rumble. My understanding is that your name is now legally changed to Teresa Rumble, and we'll identify you as such.
Okay, that's it.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't.
Unless you want to do something more, Miss Rumble.
No, that's fine. I was just emailing Lisa, and she had mentioned something about that. So I thought I would ask if we could do something else.
You could say the council member formerly known as Teresa.
I could change my name to a symbol.
Teresa, thank you for bringing that up. I apologize if I approached that incorrectly. I just wanted to be sure that when I called you by name, I used your new correct name. So.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Any last issues to bring before the council? And if none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you, Teresa. Anyone second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Patricia. Mr. Beebe?
Aye.
Janet Hutchison?
Aye.
Patricia Youngman?
Aye.
Jeff Bapke?
Aye.
Teresa Rumble?
Aye.
And the mayor says we are adjourned. Thank you all.